Hey, TD here. Welcome. Today's a short but important one. We're going to clean things up and make our app look a bit better. Right now, everything's just sitting cramped in the corner of the screen, so we'll take a moment to improve the base template layout, space things out properly, and give it a more polished look. We'll also bring in Bootstrap's dark mode toggle using their JavaScript snippet. Just a small UI touch to make things more user-friendly and visually appealing. Not a heavy coding session, but one of those things that makes a difference in the long run. All right, let's jump in and make things a little prettier. All right, now that we've grabbed the dark mode toggle JavaScript snippet from the Bootstrap website, let's drop it into our assets. We'll create a new .js file, something like darkmode.js, and paste the snippet in there. Then we'll head over to our app.scss, import the new file, and finally run the Webpack build to compile everything. That'll include our new dark mode functionality in the main front-end bundle. Nice. The dark mode's definitely a bit easier on the eyes now. While we're here, let's level things up a bit. I'm going to grab the Navbar snippet from the Bootstrap site, along with a container snippet, and drop them into our base Twig template. Then we'll tweak things slightly, add some Twig logic where needed, and apply a bit of spacing, padding, and margin classes from Bootstrap to make it look more polished and readable. Let's go ahead and clean things up. We're just going to use a two-column layout here. I'll move the block body into the second column and use the first column for the stimulus controller so we can clearly see a nice split between the different types of controllers in action. We'll keep the block body as is for now. Since we'll be creating new controllers using the Maker Bundle later, everything's still pretty much in its default state. Let's update the template and check it out. Let's add some borders to our two columns, just to make things visually clearer while we work. This will help us see exactly where the stimulus controller section ends and where our main Twig content block begins. A little bit of visual separation goes a long way when you're building out your templates. All right, let's go ahead and add those styles. You'll notice I'm using classes like MT-3 and Me-3. These are just Bootstrap spacing utilities. MT-3 stands for margin top :3, and Me-3 means margin n :3, 3 inches, which adds space to the right in LTR layouts. Similarly, you've got P for padding, so P-3 gives you padding all around. These little helpers make it super easy to control layout spacing without writing custom CSS. Neat and quick, the Bootstrap way. We'll remove the Bootstrap container from the controller's index.html.twig file and move the form directly inside the block body section. This way, anything rendered in the body block will automatically fit into our base template layout, giving us a cleaner and more consistent structure across all our pages. Makes future development much easier to manage. Now let's head over to the Bootstrap website and grab a card component snippet. We'll drop this into the first column of our base template, where our stimulus controller lives. Later on, we'll create a dedicated block section, just like we did for the body block. This one will be for stimulus-related content, so we can keep everything modular and organized. For now, this card will give us a nice placeholder to build on as we go. I think that's it for now. Let's clear the Symfony cache and give it a test run in the browser. Oops, looks like there's a little spacing conflict on the layout. No worries. Let's quickly jump in and fix up the margins and paddings to clean things up visually. Looks like a bit of trial and error with the spacing and margins here. Nothing unusual though. We'll tweak it as we go. Bit by bit, we'll get it looking just right. You know, re-watching myself work is always interesting. You start to notice little habits you built up. I'm kind of jumping all over the screen here. I actually made a few changes to my normal working setup for this episode. Normally, my main screen is in the center, but for recording, I switched to using the middle screen, with the laptop on the right and my main screen on the left. I also bumped up the font size to 125% to make things more visible in the video, but in doing so, more scrolling up and down, and seems like I totally forgot the toolbar is now on the left, not the bottom like I'm used to. So yeah, a few layout quirks here and there, but we'll adjust. It's all part of improving the workflow for these videos. There we go. Looks like we finally got this spacing thing under control. Remember back in the previous video when we added the file loader component during the Webpack setup? We also added that small script to copy the img folder from our assets directory whenever we build the app. Well, that's about to come in handy now. Let's go ahead and start branding our app. I'll grab our logo and some background images, paste them into the assets/img folder, and then add a background image to the .navbar brand class to give our app a bit of identity. Next, we're going to add two separate brand classes in our app.scss file, one for dark mode and one for normal mode. This way, our branding will look great no matter which mode the user has enabled. After adding those styles, we'll run the Webpack build and test it out in the browser. That's looking pretty spiffy, if I might say so myself. All right, let's do some basic translations, just to show how you can start adding them as you go along. Later on, I'll also show you the Symfony Web Debug Toolbar. It's super useful. You'll be able to see which translations are active, what's missing, or where it had to fall back to the default. But for now, let's just add a simple example to get the ball rolling. It's honestly way better to do your translations as you go along. Like I mentioned in the previous video when we set up the translation system, things can get messy really quickly. Rather add your translations while you're working on a file. Keeps everything clean and organized. Symfony also supports placeholders so you can reuse translations with dynamic values. Just pass the name from your controller or Twig template. Super handy. We'll show how at a later stage. Before we wrap things up, let's quickly add one important config: fallback translations. Head over to the Symfony translation docs. There's a section that shows how to define fallback locales. What this does is, if a translation key isn't found in the active locale, Symfony will automatically fall back to the default language you've set, usually English. So let's open up config/packages/translation.yaml and add the fallback config like this. That's it. Now Symfony knows what to fall back to when a translation is missing. Let me show you how it looks in the Symfony Web Debug Toolbar. You'll see what translations are used, which ones are missing, and when a fallback kicks in. This is super handy once your app grows and you're juggling multiple languages and haven't gotten around to translating every single key yet. All right, that's it for this episode. We cleaned things up a bit and gave the project a fresh new look, just to make the layout a bit more breathable. Nothing too fancy this time, just laying the groundwork to make things easier and smoother down the road. Next up in next episode, we'll dive into routing deep dive and dynamic pages in Symfony 7. So don't miss it. If you've got questions, ideas, or want me to dig deeper into something specific, drop a comment. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.